Type Podcast. Sami, today we're going to go to the theater and talk about movies. Are you a movie fan?
I am a movie fan. I'm not going to lie. I do like a nice little movie theater sitting and viewing. Nice recliner seats. Got my Diet Coke. Well, as of now, I'm actually a week clean. So got my big water.
No Diet Coke for a week? We just got to go to the Betty Ford Clinic, the rehab center.
I've been drinking my Culture Pop. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I like the Culture Pop too. Do you have a favorite flavor?
I've only tried the grapefruit.
I like the watermelon, but listeners are invited to try all the flavors. Remember the first movie you saw?
No, but I can tell you my top 3 movies when I was little. They were Cheaper by the Dozen, Yours, Mine, and Ours, and The Pacifier.
Haven't seen any of those, haven't heard any of those, but I do trust your judgment. It's funny because a generational gap that when I was a kid, that you had to go see a movie in a theater. They showed them on TV once in a while, but now people watch them on their phone. There's all the Hulu and Netflix and all those kind of things. So I think the theater experience, I love it. Like I said, popcorn.
I know one we can agree on. Run, Forrest, run.
Run, Forrest, run. It's so funny.
Run, Forrest, run.
Yeah, it's classics, but movies touch you, the whole experience. So today, we're going to talk about movies with diabetes in the theme.
Yes, because let's face it, diabetes needs to be more relevant in everyday pop culture. But there have been a variety of movies, shockingly, that do include diabetes. So Dobie and I are going to dive in. We watched all 3, some painful to get through, some not. And we're going to dive in and review them.
Yeah, and I think because diabetes isn't always portrayed accurately. I have a cousin who is a police officer. Her and her husband both are police officers. And I asked her, it's like, well, is so-and-so movie or TV show accurate to what police life is like? And it's like, no way. It's not even close. It's amped up, and someone that's not a police officer writes it. And I think people that have diabetes, they write some parts too. So our first movie is...
Our first movie is Mall Cop with Kevin James.
Paul Blart, Mall Cop. Yes, Kevin James is a comedian, and I met him years ago working together. We had Billy Gardell was on an episode, one of our first episodes, and I was working in Florida for a couple of months in a row, and I met a lot of people, and Billy Gardell and Kevin James were 2 of them that I met in that time. So it came
What's
out.
Funny?
What's that?
I didn't even realize when I watched Mall Cop, like ever, a long time ago, I had no idea that there was diabetes jokes in it. At all.
Well, the main character, Paul Blart, is a mall cop. He's like a security guard, a failed police officer. Came out in 2009, according to the DVD box I have here.
I was 9 years old. Not hard.
You were 9 years old, so you wouldn't see a movie like that, I don't think, at age 9. It didn't have bad language or anything like that. It was pretty clean.
It was pretty. I mean, it was pretty clean. I felt like I saw it, but I didn't register. And so there's one scene, and he falls over, he just passes out. And they give him a lollipop?
Yeah. It's like Popeye with spinach, so it's the diabetic. He's got low blood sugar, so you give him a lollipop or any kind of piece of candy, and then he just has a super strength energy, which I thought was completely ridiculous.
I was like, that does not happen. If I go low and I eat something, I'm like, give me more. I'm not like, woo! It's a good day.
Yeah, he went floor to ceiling, like a monkey jumping around in the zoo in about 4 seconds, and it doesn't happen that way.
It never happens that way. But I thought that one was interesting. He actually has type 2 though in real life, right?
I did not know that. No, I don't know that to be true.
I think he does. If I look it up, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, he did some good physical comedy in there, I thought. Physical comedy isn't always easy to do. And he had a show, King of Queens, if you watch sitcoms, which I don't. And it's really funny because when we worked together all those years ago, he was just not nice to me. I didn't think he was a nice person. And I was a host at a comedy club down there. And Billy Gardell and I worked together for 2 straight weeks at 2 clubs back to back. And we were friends instantly. In the first 30 seconds, we bonded. And Kevin James, for whatever reason, and again, performers, maybe they had a bad day, a bad time. I worked with him several times, and we never clicked. So I tried to watch that movie objectively, thinking, okay, you weren't nice to me, but I gotta hand it to you. There's some funny scenes in there, I thought, but the diabetes representation I thought was way off, my personal feeling.
It was completely off. And then I think what's the other part when they're sitting around the table? The table with the oh gosh, it's like his mom and
dinner
his
table
son.
and his daughter. His daughter.
Yes, or the daughter. And what is he doing again? He says something, and she says about controlling his blood sugar. She makes some comment, but he's eating like a huge plate of pasta, spaghetti. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. Poor representation. You would not be eating a plate of spaghetti.
And there probably weren't any diabetes counselors or consultants on the set. They did it just for joke purposes. I think stereotypes get out. Well, you eat sugar, it's rocket fuel, like Popeye and spinach. I think the
You know how many people?
Go ahead.
How many people, when I tell them I'm diabetic, they're going out like a mall cop. I'm like, what? No.
Yeah, that sure did get out. Because I was diagnosed in 2011. That came out in 2009. So, I mean, comedian with diabetes, I got linked to him whether I wanted to be or not.
Yeah, see, it's just a poor representation. I don't know. I think they could have done a little more tastefully. And I get that everything includes jokes. Like, you have to make fun of people. I understand that. But I don't think necessarily diabetes is a good one, just because America is so, known for obesity and unhealthy food, processed food. And then here we are, a guy falls over in a movie, they give him a lollipop, and then he has a bunch of energy, and then he's eating a big thing of spaghetti. And I hate to say it, but Kevin James is a little on the heftier side. So
a little on the heftier side, and Billy Gardell did something about it. Yes, he had surgery, and I don't know how much weight he actually lost, but he transformed his entire life. And again, I don't care if you're a star or not a star, keeping in shape. Like, you and I, the first thing we did when we hooked up in Los Angeles, we went for a long walk, and then we did it again the next day.
We did.
That is so cool. It's a lifestyle thing. And we're from way different backgrounds, but that bonded us. And I think I don't care who you are, if you have diabetes, exercise needs to be part of your lifestyle, type 1 or type 2.
1,000%. It has to be, because if it's not, I don't know. I just have an issue with people that are like, I don't really exercise. I'm like, you are given 4 limbs, and to move, to walk, to do whatever. And even if, let's say, you are maybe don't have access or like mobility in your lower half, you have arms still to do stuff. Like, it's just use your body and, make the most of it. But can only.
And the thing, though, I think what we try to stress here on JMT and every episode, one way or another, is it's got to be a daily thing. You can't do it once and go nuts and then not do it again for 3 weeks and expect to have progress. It's got to be a part of your life. You carve out time every day. And since the time we've been on the air, that's what they say in radio or online, it's been 5 months for me, and I am totally transformed. And I'll say it as many times as people will allow me to hear it. So that was so cool that you and I could get together, and it's just like, yep, that's part of our life. Let's go walk. And then we had each other to talk to. So the walk went really fast.
Oh my God, the walk went so fast.
What's that? It did.
The walk went so fast.
No, I was like, I wish you were here now so I could go do. I did one this morning before we recorded, and it's like, I wish Sami was here, because it's like, but
I know.
It does become.
I'm like, maybe I'll just start waking up and I'll just call you.
That'll be cool. We can do our episodes as we're walking.
So
now they did do a Mall Cop 2, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2, which I did not see because the assignment was only to watch the 3 movies that we did for this particular episode. Did you happen to see the second one?
There's a Mall Cop 2?
Yeah, and yes, there is.
Wait, I didn't know this. Is there any mention of diabetes in it?
That's what I wanted to know. But again, it was hard enough to squeeze in time to watch 3 movies for this episode. So I will do some research on my own, and I'll see it at the thrift store. I go to thrift stores all the time. So I'll pick one up for $2 or $1 or whatever I can do. And I'll force myself to watch it. Because if you watch the movie, it was pretty big budget. It wasn't as horrible as I thought it was going to be. There was some pretty good jokes in it. I thought the actors were pretty good. The actress that played Paul Blart's Mall Cop's daughter, I thought she was great. She was 9 or 10 or 12 or whatever she was.
Yeah.
She was a tremendous actress. I thought she was really good.
She was a very good actor. Yeah, it is. It's just more annoying, the hypoglycemia, which is like low blood sugar, that it becomes like, it comes off as a joke. And that's it, just because I think it creates that stereotype. But there was that movie, which was really cool. The next movie that was the first movie to have a diabetes device, which was Turning Red, the Pixar movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome because okay, so it was called Turning Red. It was basically about a girl with her menstrual cycle and puberty, but essentially,
I did not know that going in. I have to say,
I didn't know that either.
Okay, good. Because it took me by surprise, I will say. not
I was
expecting
like,
it. I'm thinking,
what is
okay, Pixar
happening?
knows what they're doing, so I'm sure that there's money there. They were researching it before they went there.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of how I felt because I was like, oh. But it was funny because I was watching it, I was waiting. Everybody was raving, so I was like, oh, they're gonna mention like the Dexcom or like they're gonna mention diabetes. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and then literally I was like, oh my god, they don't mention it.
Yeah,
It's just you just see the little Dexcom on the little girl's arm.
but I'm sure they had to plant that seed because they know, okay, X amount of people have it, and a lot of children do. So I predict it will be a leap for other movies. There will be a diabetic character if there's money in it.
Oh
They'll
yes.
create one.
Yes. And I think there's mixed reviews on that for me. Like, it was super interesting that they didn't mention it because on the pro side of that, as a diabetic, like, it's really reassuring to just be like, that's just part of life. Like,
Hmm.
like, you don't have to like emphasize it. I kind of like that you don't necessarily have to emphasize that so that it's like let's make it very apparent and very obvious. But I also wish that they would have been like, oh no, I'm diabetic. Like, yeah. Cause I think that could have gone two ways. Like the first way, it would have been that like some people think, oh, that's really cool. They didn't mention it, whatever. And then other people might be like, oh, see, she didn't mention it because she's embarrassed. Like the actor's probably embarrassed. And I think it should have been taken as just like, it's no big deal. And it's really cool she has it. And that's a part of life. But I hope people took it that way.
Well, I think this movie was just like I said, a starter drug, as you say. We'll see where Pixar goes with this because they're smart people loaded with money making. And again, you're in business to make money. I don't have a problem with that at all. But let's see where they go with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it almost seems like it's been going like in increments. Like it started out with like the mall cop, which I think they totally got flack for and realized maybe we don't do that again. And then they went to Turning Red, which was awesome because a lot of little kids were like, "Oh my god, like they have a Dexcom. That's so cool." Um, and then they went to the third movie, which we both watched and we had on Brianna on the episode, which was Purple Hearts, and that was a Netflix movie, and that's I feel like been the biggest movie in terms of emphasizing diabetes and making it like the main aspect of the movie.
It was a big part of the main character's life, and in real life, she did not have diabetes. But our guest, and go listen to that episode because I think Brianna Raquel was absolutely fantastic. She was bubbly and warm, and very. They should have put her in the lead role, probably. I mean, I know it's acting.
I thought that too. But then she informed us that she didn't know. Remember that she didn't even know it was diabetes when she got the part. And
Totally
they didn't
fair
know
enough.
she was diabetic.
Yeah. Now I don't know. Now you're a dancer, and I saw you when we emceed the American Diabetes Association step out in Los Angeles, and we had a blast doing it. I could tell that in the first 12 seconds you were on stage when you did the warm up, that you were an outstanding dancer. It's part of your being. You started doing it when you were 2 years old, correct? The
Yes.
movements
Very
that
long time.
but I'm saying the movements that you did a warm up. It was fun. I made jokes that I was having a heart attack, which I thought I was because you were so in shape. But it was a fun thing, and I could just tell the movements that you did is second nature. Okay. Now, when I watch a movie, I was both an athlete. I was a baseball player, and
Yeah.
I am a comedian for way longer than I was a baseball player. So if I watch a sports movie, actors trying to play athletes that aren't stand out to me. And there's been a few actors that have tried to be comedians. There's a Tom Hanks movie. He's a very popular actor.
Which
And
movie is it?
it's called Punchline. It came out
Oh, I
probably
think I've seen that.
in the late 80s, early 90s. Sally Field is in it and Tom Hanks. And
Okay.
when the comedy club boom in America was at its peak, I was a comedian then, and I was working with another comedian at a club. I don't remember where we were, and it came to a theater. We said, well, we're comedians. We should probably go and see this movie because everybody was talking about it. Tom Hanks was just starting to become a big actor then. I'm not sure. It was right before Forrest Gump, but he was still very famous. And about 10 minutes into it, it was so ridiculous and off the beaten path of what comedy is. I looked at my comedian friend. I said, should we leave? He said, no, we should probably sit through it because everybody's going to be talking about it. And we just winced the entire way through because it was horrible.
Yeah.
But we're comedians, and it was a very popular movie and made a lot of money. So what I'm trying to say is watching a movie like Purple Hearts, as somebody
Yes.
with diabetes, I thought the same way. It's like, well, the wrong actors. And again, she's a very beautiful woman. They had lots of ridiculously good looking people acting, But I thought from a credibility point of view, they missed it. Is that bad?
No, so I think what was okay when we kind of talked about this before when we did I think when did we talk about? I don't know. We talked about it at some point, but for me, it was really good. I understand that Brianna said that she asked her a lot about how to feel when you're low and all this stuff. However, I don't think it was necessarily even the acting. It definitely was, but it was majority of it was I think how the director wanted her to portray it.
Correct.
And emphasize to her. And I think if maybe if she was 20, I could have totally seen her act like that. Her blood sugar was 20, that makes sense. But to be 60, I don't know anybody that acts like they can't move at 60. Maybe 50, totally. But I don't even think, I know maybe elderly people, because when you're above the age of 80, your body just can't take as much. But 68 and you're you look drunk and can't function. I just don't see that happening. But I think a lot of that is definitely just maybe the depiction of it. I think also, even though I feel that way and you feel that way, it's how you said, yeah, watching somebody who's not actually what they are in real life, watching somebody
it was painful to watch
actually know. Yes. But I do think at least it was better than Mall Cop, where at least they depicted oh, hey, if somebody has a low blood sugar, you really need to pay attention. So it was over dramatized, but at least it was over dramatized in a good way.
Well, I agree with you totally. And another thing I thought was presented actually was a positive, even though it wasn't a positive scenario, is when the main character with diabetes could not afford medication. So she's in the store and she's arguing, well, your insurance is not renewed and you can't have it. And her mother comes and bails her out with all the money, blah, blah, blah. That was a little maudlin, maybe the word is. But I thought, there is something there to the point. So they weren't totally off base or wrong. And I'm sure they didn't do it with
No, that was pretty accurate. That was a pretty accurate representation, because I know a lot of people that have gone in and they're I cannot afford $500 of insulin right now.
And that's legit. I get that.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that was, I don't know, it was really cool that they chose to make a movie on Netflix about a girl that has diabetes. I thought that was awesome. However, I think from a production and director standpoint, I don't even think it should have been a question. I think she should have actually had diabetes.
Yeah, no question about it. So that leads to I know we talked about this off. Yeah. We're going to drop this for our listeners. And if we have any fans, we love every one of you. I think Sami would be perfect to play a person with diabetes in a movie or a TV show. It would be absolutely fantastic, because you do have it, and it would really come across as somebody, a representative, and you could have other friends that have it. And I think there's enough of an audience that would say, okay, this is what it's like. Maybe it's a reality show. I don't know if you ever watch reality shows. Sometimes the least reality is a reality show. They plant everything in there. But my point is, it would be real. And I think people need to know that. Parents with diabetic children can watch something like that and say, no, that's how it really is.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, you deal with real stuff. It was funny because this weekend I had an incident at, I was out at a dance bar, I guess you could say, in San Diego. And I went in there to find one of my boyfriend's friend, and I came out and couldn't find my phone. And I was like, where is my phone? I don't know where it's at. So I went with the security guard, and I was like, excuse me, sir, I need to get back in there, because we had just exited the gate. And I was like, I have to get back in there. I'm diabetic. I don't have my thing. And he just was like, I need you to go through the front line again. I was like, I'm not waiting in the front line. My blood sugar was low.
It was just in
there. It's
not right.
It's a life or death. I just came out of here. You saw me. I had a stamp on my hand. I'm giving you my license. Let me back in. I need my phone. I'm showing you my Dexcom. And he's just looking at me I need you to go through the thing. And they were being so aggressive, ma'am. And I was like, no, I need to get back in there. I was just in there, freaking out, having an anxiety. I was crying. I was like, you guys are so ignorant. You don't understand. It's not blah, blah, blah. And
you were playing the D card.
I was playing the D card. Well, yeah, partially I was playing the D card, but actually it wasn't.
It was a true. It was a real situation.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm in a real situation. And they wouldn't let me. And I was so mad. And I got told, you're never going to be allowed in here if you go back in there. And I said, then screw you. I'm going back in there. I don't care. I was having a whole
You go,
whatever.
Girl. You fight.
I was going off about it. I was like, my parents own a restaurant, and they would never treat their customers like this. And I was definitely being over drama, because I had 2 drinks in me. So, juices were flowing. I was
Oh,
like,
that's
you don't
the wrong
understand.
Jews talking. That's the
Yeah. But needless to say, like that incident would have given me like a really good opportunity in like a movie, you know, like that's like a prime example of like something I would have made in like a show or movie, but it happened in real life. So I think like Brianna would have been so perfect for it because she's for sure gone through stuff like that. And so I think like her being able to, you know, emulate that on a different, like on a movie would have been so cool. But
and there would have been a chance to educate too. You know, I don't know if you want to. Obviously, the person that's hired to do security, they're not necessarily a thinking people. They do what they do. They probably are, you know, have other things going on. But if you go to management and say, look, this is a situation where I'm a customer, a paying customer. I wasn't trying to scam you, scheme you. I lost my phone.
yeah,
It's connected to my
yeah.
health. You know, my
I
diet.
literally was saying that, and I was thinking, he's like, well, we have a lot of people who, you know, make this stuff up. I'm like, yeah, people just slap on a Dexcom on their
Yeah,
arm.
right.
I'm
Exactly.
like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I couldn't help it. I was so fired up.
So how did it turn out?
Because well, I went in there. They took a flashlight. They looked everywhere. The 2 security guards were sweet. The manager was a bleep, and the what's it called? The operations manager was very nice. But I didn't find it. It had to have fallen out, and somebody turned off my phone, so I didn't have my Dexcom all weekend long. Yeah, I was finger pricking, which is totally fine, totally doable. Blood sugars were
back to
down
the Stone Age.
Back to the Stone Age, and then yeah, I got a new phone yesterday because of my Dexcom and all of that, and I don't have on Dexcom, but we're hoping. But yeah, it was a prime example, and I think now that the guy knows, he's going to be like, holy crap, now I know not to mess with the diet.
Well, this is a perfect scene, like you said, and I think this is something that's real that happens to people. You're not, no offense to you, you're not the only person that this has happened to. No way.
No, exactly. I'm not the only person, like at all. And that's why I was like, what? But it's so tough. But I just think it would be really cool to have movies like this or TV shows or something that like kind of depict what actually happens, because diabetes, like, obviously, I know there's so many chronic illnesses and diseases, but it's cool that diabetes is one that shows up so much in daily life with people who don't have diabetes, you know?
Well, now it becomes a numbers game. So you're talking about 1 in 10 people in North America. Well, in the United States, we're talking 30-some million people. And in Canada, was at 5-6 million people. And I'm sure in Mexico, there are many diabetics down there, too.
Exactly. Yeah, so... But, you know, what are you going to do? But I do think it would be a really good movie, Saint.
Yeah.
But I'd say out of the 3 movies, what was your favorite one?
You know, I will say from a comedy standpoint, I enjoyed Paul Blart because I thought, you know, whether he was nice to me or not, and whether I like anybody personally or not, I'm always one to objectively say that person has talent and you have to respect that. Like with athletes that play on another team that you're not cheering for, it's like, okay, they're good. And I thought Kevin James did a good job from a comedic standpoint. But and again, I don't want to take any disrespect away from Purple Hearts, but you know, they were good-looking people. I know their career is building, but it's from a credibility standpoint. And I know movies are exaggerated. I had a hard time sitting through it, but then we got to meet Brianna, and she was so cool. Something I like that one more. So I think it's going to be a tie between those two.
Okay.
How about you? What was your
Turning
favorite?
Red was my least favorite. I just thought Turning Red was, I don't know, but again, we're not little, so it also is difficult. We're not.
I was wondering who they were going for there, and obviously it's certainly not me.
Definitely like
it would have been you.
10-year-olds. I feel like maybe 8 or 9.
Well, the Pixar / Disney empire has done that for generations. They go after you when you're 7 or 8 or 6 or 4 or whatever their age is, and stuff like Snow White gets re-released. You know, all the classics that we've all seen. Your generation saw it. My generation saw it. My parents' generation saw it. And that's smart business. So hopefully JMT with the same thing. It's like, okay, we re-release the episode. So your kids, that's my mom. Who's that old guy? He's dead. He's gone.
No, never, Dobie. Never.
So are there other? I can't think of any other movies or TV shows that have a distinct.
Okay, I think there are. Like, I was kind of looking it up, and I think The Big Bang Theory possibly talks about like obesity and diabetes, and then I think I don't know, it's like what is it called? Oh gosh, there's another one. Colony, I think It's like a science fiction drama series, and I think it talks about like insulin prices because the character has type 1. I didn't watch that, so I don't know. But I think there's a couple and a few.
Well, I mean, obviously I grew up in the 70s, and I don't remember any characters at all in those movies and TV shows in that era. So thankfully they're going in the right direction. So maybe they're a little bit exaggerated, and it's up to you and me to make a show that is accurate and fun and funny.
Yes. Well, we have a question of the pod.
Which is?
And the question of the pod is, what is your favorite movie?
Favorite movie, just period, not with...
Yes, favorite movie.
Boy, that's a lot. Do you have one in your mind? I have to think.
Yes, The Proposal with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Reynolds. I think it is so funny.
I am mad at
Betty
Sandra
White.
Bullock. I'm mad at Sandra Bullock, Sammy. I was in a movie with her called While You Were Sleeping. They recorded it in Chicago. And I was supposed to have a part. I played a mailman. And my hair was a lot longer than it is now. And you can look at that movie. I think it was 93 or 4 or 5 in mid-90s when they recorded it. And it was so cold in Chicago that it was too cold to snow. Believe it or not, it can get too cold to snow. So they had to bring a snow machine in and make snow because they wanted it to be a winter scene. So it took like 2 hours. So we're standing out there. It's freezing cold. The director said, okay, the mailman, take your line away. Just walk past. So I was supposed to have a line, which meant I would get my name in the credits of the movie. And it would have been, a start of maybe a movie. I don't want to say career, but it would have been cool.
Yeah.
And they said, don't talk to the stars before. I was basically an extra. So we were waiting for the snow machine to go. And I was probably 10 to 15 feet away from Sandra Bullock. She picked her butt. She picked her nose. She looked at her watch. She looked at her. She didn't say hello. She looked over. It could have been, hey, how you doing? What's up? Did not
nothing.
Say, not a word. And we stood there.
Dang.
Like, so I'm mad at her. She could have said...
You can be mad at her. What's your favorite?
Not that one. No, I'm kidding. When I was a kid, I was about 12 years old, and the movie Jaws came out. And I saw it in a theater with my uncle. And it was at the right age, at the right time. And that movie just captivated me. And I thought it was fantastic. So to this day, that's my favorite movie, Jaws.
Well, I love it. Sounds amazing to me.
So how can people find us?
You can answer... you can answer that question in the pod on our Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at JustMyTypePod _ Facebook at JustMyTypePod, and
this is the Just My Type podcast.